What's up? So, Deck Devastators is starting soon, and here are gonna be my predictions. It's gonna be like a 150 player event. It's gonna be really big, and I don't know. Edison format is in a really weird spot. It's really different than it was last year, and I think that the RBT results have proven it, with the main example being the quote-unquote downfall of Up-Zero Miracle Fusion stuff and the rise of the hybrid Blackwing variants, because it's really flexible, being able to side deck the value Greffer stuff and put in more back row for the matchups it needs, as well as having the value access whenever the matchup requires it, when you have to be more aggressive. Yeah, overall, the tournament's gonna, I think there are gonna be a lot of decks. I think that most people will play the two decks that you can see right now, but I think there are some hidden gems that people haven't really explored, or that people will explore due to Keegan being one of the most influential figures in Edison. So when we go with Blackwing variants, um, Blackwings, yes, they are the most represented deck. Even I count Vayu Turbo as a Blackwing deck. Um, and like the RBET4, the top 4 was like all Blackwing decks, which is insane for a format like Edison. I don't think Blackwings are that insane. I think they're like a tier 1 deck. I don't think there's a best deck in Edison. I think that Blackwings are for sure one of the top 3 decks. That's what I think, because they have the ability to play a lot of things. Like they can play like 12 to 15 back row if they wish. They can play value stuff and get free things from the graveyard if they wish. They can abuse floodgates like Royal Oppression, even Skill Drain if they want to. And they also have access to Icarus Attack, which is one of the strongest traps in the game at the moment. And it allows you to play both an aggressive game and both a defensive game when needed. And as a result, the decks that can beat Icarus Attack are the ones that kind of have an advantage against Blackwings, looking at, for example, Frog Monarch. Then, I'm not sure if it will be the best deck in Deck Devastators. I predict that we are gonna have like 2 Blackwing variants to the top 8. I don't think that the deck is that insane as it was during our BET4, and I think that a lot of people are gonna take Blackwings into account. The good thing about Blackwings being the best deck is that there are a lot of things that can beat them. Blackwings struggle with recruiters. They struggle when their normal summon is hit, with cards like Bottomless, for example, Trap Holes, and it isn't like the best deck at beating Set Raikou. Even so, the hybrid variant beats Raikou better because it has a play that doesn't like start with Whirlwind, and you can just like attack with Vayu. And that's it. But I think that the deck has like good matchups mostly due to its ability to abuse cards like Oppression, and due to Black Whirlwind being a card. Also the ability that you can play Dad, and Dad is like the most stupid monster in Edison. Then you have the side deck, which you can adapt your plans for Fairies, for Frognark, which is like a bad matchup for you. And yeah, I think that we're gonna see Blackwing stopping. I think they are really good at this point. I don't think they have ever not topped an RBT. I mean, the first one only Vayu Turbo topped, but still, I count it as a Blackwing deck. Then we have the Diva Zombie. I think that Diva Zombie is the best Diva variant. Because I think that the zombie cards are better than the hero cards. I mean, yes, Miracle Fusion is insane, but you can see that hero plays stuff that you could consider bricks. It plays like Infernal Gainer. Infernal Gainer is bad without Chaos, for example. And zombies also can play Chaos really easily. Also, zombies have a bigger explosivity that they can get to through Goblin Zombie. Goblin Zombie searching the entire deck, whereas heroes just have Stratos and they have to hard draw Miracle Fusion. And Miracle Fusion isn't an early game card. Still, I mean, it's a combo deck that struggles with oppression. The deck can play Raikou throughout it, but I think that it's a really good and standard aggressive deck that can play defensive when needed, which is why I really like Diva Zombies at the moment. I don't think they are like the best deck. I don't think there is a best deck, but I think you're gonna see 1 to 2 of them topping. I think one will top. Then we have the quote-unquote hidden gem of the format, according to Keegan, which is Fairies. Fairies, I'm going to be really honest with you, I think they are a really strange deck. I think that the pilot has to be good, obviously, but I think that's true with most Edison decks. Then we have the fact that the deck has like a really strong Blackwing matchup, and like the good Blackwing counters to the deck, like Light Imprisoning, like Devastation. They need other cards to work. Like if you have Light Imprisoning, you need to have the another monster to beat Fairies, the recruiters, and then if you have deck Devastation, you need to have a monster that actually you can tribute. I mean, they are really good. They don't even rely that much on Christia. Their ability to just play generic good normal summons alongside by having strong recruiters, the orange light, also honest, thus making Kalut way worse against Fairies, which is really good because, and also bottomless is bad against the deck because deck dev is good. Then we have Deep Prison, which can be good, but it also loses to the Alk. I mean, there are a lot, and then there are a lot of things that Fairies can do in order to do well. They can play a plethora of going second cards. They have Orange Light, which is really good. I mean, I think that the main counter to Fairies are cards like Dimensional Fissure, like macro stuff, because Christian needs monsters in the graveyard, the recruiters need to go in the graveyard, D-Alk needs to go into the graveyard to trigger, they can't herald you, but I don't think there's like a deck at the moment that can play these cards willingly. I mean, like pure slow Blackwing could, but I don't think that's the direction you want to do. You don't want to lose your Blizzard situations like this. And yeah, the hybrid Blackwing variants can't, zombies definitely can't. Yeah, so I think that Fairies will top. I think that we're gonna see a Fairy deck topping. The problem is that Fairies, they really have like the whole skill situation because it's a deck that doesn't have that high of a that high of a power ceiling because it just normals a monster. I mean, it has some easy lines, but like every turn you normal a monster or you set a monster. I don't think the deck is as big brain as Keegan makes it to be, but yeah, it's only like really aggressive card is Soul of Purity and Light and Christia, and I think that's the main problem with the Fairy deck. It can struggle at being aggressive sometimes, and I think that aggression is really important in Edison at this point. Then we have the Quickdraw Variants. Quickdraw was in an all-time low, but it has climbed up a bit now. It's definitely not in the top 3 decks, in my opinion, but as long as the decks get more degenerate in the theory that they play more combo cards, we see that being like the best card over and over again, this deck will get better because you can build, you have that resiliency that Dandy gives you, Drill Warrior getting you the best card from your graveyard each turn, and you also have generic good things like you can play Titania, or what's her name, the big level 8 plat monster. You can play a lot of things. So you can play Chaos in the deck, Debris Dragon. You play a lot of good stuff. And Raikou, I don't think that Raikou is like a card that wins games, but it's a versatile card, and this deck can really play it and use it to its biggest potential. I really don't know if Quickdraw is the call. I mean, you can mix it with a lot of things, which is really good. So, I mean, we've seen like Quickdraw Machina Variants. And yeah, I don't know if this will be, it's like high points, but the next deck may actually make it be the all-time high. And the next deck is like Tele-Dad. I actually tried this deck a bit and I played against it. This deck ceiling is fucking insane. If this deck draws Greffer alongside almost any dark in your deck, the game is over. Greffer in this deck is fucking insane. Yes, the deck can struggle with some DD Crow situations, but your opponent like has to have them. If they open Greffer, you usually can bring a level 8 synchro, and like summoning Stardust turn 1 in Edison is basically insane. Like you go Greffer Stardust set 1. Like what the that's really strong for Edison. I don't know how many decks can beat that consistently. And but again, the problem is that the deck kind of has to draw Greffer. The deck can't play. The deck has auto win buttons in form of Dark Arm Dragon, summoning multiple synchros. It can also like side deck stuff like Decree to beat trap decks. It can play Allure. I think that if the deck has more, it can also like play Return, which is another stupid card. I think that the deck has like a lot of things going for it. I think it's so good. Being able to summon Stardust is so good early on. I mean, yes, it loses to Crow. It loses to Crow quite a bit actually, but better have it, honestly. It can, and if you go first and open the hand, then your opponent, what can he do? I mean, that's it. I think we're gonna see this deck topping. I think this deck is a hidden gem in the format. And I think that if the pilot is a bit lucky, I think it's a luck dependent deck at the moment, then it will top. Then we have the Machina stuff. I think that Machina decks are in a really weird spot right now. They are good. I think they have a really good shell to be like this control deck that pluses 1 every time. But the problem is that these gadgets, they don't threaten anything. You can just like have a monster with more than 1800 attack, and unless they have Solidarity, they can't do shit. I mean, and then if they have Solidarity, good. You save your cards for it. I just think that gadgets are a good deck. They're underrated for sure, but I think that they struggle with pulling the rug, because even if you like let all the gadgets start playing, then you're gonna negate the gear frame unless if you don't have an answer for Machina Fortress. You're gonna negate the gadgets if you have an answer for Fortress. I mean, it's not a bad deck, but I don't think it's the top tier deck that all control players make it to be. I think that it being a pseudo 1 card makes it good, but I don't think that that's the game plan. I don't think that this deck is the best deck, and I don't think we're gonna see a Machina deck topping in race in general, because I think that all of the other Machina decks they have to be really lucky in order to win. I think that the Machina deck that plays the level 10, 9 guys is bad. Like, I guess that Machina Fortress is a good win condition, but there can be like hands where you draw like 2 Machina Forces, and you're like, what the fuck is this? It's like you're playing like bad cards. Machina Ancient Gear is good, but still, if it doesn't draw Gear Town, sometimes you feel like you're playing a shitty deck. I mean, Machina Fortress being a really, really good card, but I don't think that's enough to make it top eventually. I think that these decks are lacking something at the moment. Then we have Dragons. I don't think Dragons will be heavily represented. I don't think that they are that good. They struggle with monsters that can be removed from battle, like Spirit Reaper, like Armor Master, like Dupe Froglock. That's why they have to play Vortex, they have to play Treacherous. And even so, the deck can like draw these hands of trading Allure into combo, but it still needs a lot of luck to play. And I think that the deck struggles with stuff like Oppression. Even if you like Tribute summon the big guys, it's not gonna happen that easily, because the majority of your deck is like spells. Nobody's playing anti-spell, obviously, for that deck, even though it was discussed. But yeah, I just think that if you want to play an aggressive deck, the Tele-Dad deck is way better, because it can play more defensive cards, its plays are way less linear, and Greffer summoning Stardust I think is way better than like relying on draws to get a red MD in rotation. Then we have the Lightsworn deck. I mean, I think we're gonna see one top because it's like a deck that a lot of people play. I think that Lightsworns are a really luck reliant deck, because there aren't enough good cards in the deck anymore due to the ban list post Lightsworn format that led to Edison. And if you like open Celestial play plus JD, then you're a good player, I guess. Or if you open like Cold Wave JD, then you're good. I think that you have to be really lucky with Lightsworn to win, because the deck is just like, it's an aggro deck that its only main form of defense are some books, some bottomlesses and deep reasons, and honests. I don't think that's enough. I mean, you can back on in light honest, which is good. You can have multiple synchro access with cards like Play, which I think is really, really must for the deck. But still, I don't think that Lightsworn is that good of a deck, even with the Twilight stuff. But one will top because someone will be lucky enough to reach the top 4, I think. Then we have Glad Beasts. I don't think Glad Beasts are a good deck. I think that they have to draw multiple cards in order to do well. They have their auto-win button being like the Geyserus stuff, but it's not, I think that it's not like that good. Also, every level 8 synchro just beats Glads. Stardust Dragon eats them alive, honestly. Starlight Road as well. And you don't want your deck losing to all of that stuff. I mean, Stardust Dragon is an insane card, but when he counters your deck's main win condition, then it's a bit problematic, even if summoning Stardust is usually a winning play in Edison. Then we have the fact that it doesn't win against good players. Bad players will lose to Glad Beasts because they're gonna like set their monsters and set monsters that are like recruiters and do nothing, and Glads are gonna tag out and beat them. But if you like know how to play it, you're not gonna do such mistakes. You are gonna play around the Glads and you're gonna win. Then we have the Hero Beat deck. I think that this deck is underrated, but I think that it struggles from the fact that even like the day that you're supposed to have the best matchup from the top, which is Blackwing, can't side stuff for you. I mean, Blackwing can side a lot of backrow hit for this deck. I mean, there is even an in-archetype card that destroys all sets, even though it's not being played. But I think it's a good deck. It lacks something. I mean, you can sometimes like draw Spark without Gemini things. Sometimes the opponents have bigger monsters than you and you have to waste traps for them, and you can't really afford wasting multiple traps unless you have like one of these blowout cards like Mirror Force, Torrential. I mean, I think that it being able to play stuff like Thunder King, Doom Caliber, I think it elevates it a bit. But as we're gonna see later, I think that mixing it with Diva Hero isn't like the worst thing. Like playing the small package of the Sparks and the Neosilius, as well as playing the Diva cards without the bricks and emphasizing into more back row. I think that's a really good play because it covers the weaknesses of both decks, the bricks and the ability of Hero Beats to not push when needed. Hero Beat has to be ahead, and in order for it to be ahead, it has to draw a card that beats heavy so that it can set everything. And even if it sets everything, if you're able to get rid of their main monsters, then it can struggle. Then we have, I mean, as we talked about Diva Hero has fallen a lot. And it's not surprising. I think that the decks at the moment can't deal with Absolute Zero better. I think that playing all these bricks in the deck makes players hesitant to pick it for a tournament. Therefore, I think if the deck cuts down bricks and becomes a bit more defensive, while as well being able to not lose so hard to oppression, then I think it will be good. And then we have like another deck that I just played against it this morning. It's X-Sabers. I don't think X-Sabers are good. I think they lose to so many things. Like, even if you resolve Rescue Cat, you're not winning. And if you're not winning when you resolve Rescue Cat, that tells something about your deck. I mean, there's also you have cards like Gotham's Emergency Call, but what are you doing, like, afterwards? You don't have the good X-Saber cards that game in Shining Darkness. You don't have Bogart Knight. What are you gonna do? What are X-Sabers gonna do? Like, you're also gonna bring with Fall Trolls and all of that. And the monsters, except for like Emerge Blade, aren't good enough. Moving on to like, so what are my final predictions? Okay, so I'm gonna make for the top 8, and I will be happy if I hit like 40%. Okay, so 2 Boom Variants, 1 Diva Zombie for sure, 1 Lightsworn, 1 Fairy. I also didn't speak about Frog Monarch. I don't think that Frog Monarch is good, but I think it beats Blackwing. So if your deck beats Blackwing, you have a chance to play it because it's the most represented deck. It's not necessarily the best deck, but it's the most represented. So yeah, I think that 1 Frog Monarch will top the event. I mean, when it comes to, I think that this will definitely be the top. Any other deck that I said will top? Oh yes, we're gonna also have 1 Tele-Dad deck, and like these are the top. This will be for sure. I mean, if there's like the 8th deck, I think it will be either a 3rd variant, either a 3rd Blackwing variant, or a Diva Zombie, or a Fairy deck. Not Fairy deck, or a Frog, not Frog Monarch, or a, what's the name? Tele-Dad deck. I truly believe in Tele-Dad. I think that like so 2 to 3, 1 to 2, and 1 to 2. I mean, this is my prediction for the deck Devastators. I'm not gonna be able to play. Hope that everyone that plays has an absolute blast. That was all for me. Have a nice day.